Okay, so good morning, everyone. We are gonna pick up from where we left off yesterday. We wanted to develop this section of the page. We discovered this page and we just want to develop this section of the page. And then ultimately we're gonna develop this whole section. But if you look at this carefully, you can see that all of this, look at the border here. See, everything here belongs to one section. Like this part and this part, they all belong to one section. So eventually we're going to be able to develop all of this. I mean, this part is very easy, as we can see. Within here is just plain HTML. It's nothing more than that. And there is a border over there. But we're going to do that too, eventually. But I believe that I'm going to teach you I'm going to mention the idea of display. And that's going to take like 5 to 10 minutes. After that, we should be able to develop something like this right now. And we're going to attempt to do that together. Both of us will. And we're going to, I'll be asking questions, and then based on what you tell me, we're going to attempt to build something like this today. Okay, so the thing that we needed to do that we couldn't do yesterday, which is the display, CSS display. We did talk about unit of measurement yesterday. We talked about colors yesterday. We also talked about the box model yesterday. Especially the box model is a crucial concept, right? And it is very important that every software developer or front-end developer has a firm understanding of the box model. So another important idea that we need to understand is going to be the display. So we'll go through the display, and then, and then we can start with the project. As you can see, there isn't a lot of things to the display at all. 1 second, please. Let me check something. Okay. Yep. So we're gonna get started with display. So just to give you guys a little bit of encouragement, why we need to learn this display. Let's look at what we did yesterday, day 2. Let's look at the box model that we worked on. We designed something like this yesterday. Right now, if you guys can have noticed, any of the things that we work on, we see that all the elements are stacked on top of each other. The elements that we've been working with, most of them are always stacked on top of each other, right? But we want the ability to have this div come to this side of the screen also, right? Because look at the size of this element. But what are we doing with the rest of the space on the right? Nothing. So because of the display properties that we are about to learn, we're going to be able to do that. We're going to be able to let 2 or more elements display on the same line, right? And sometimes you don't want that to happen, but the display property will give you the ability to control that, right? Please give me 1 second, just a few seconds. Hello? I'm very, very sorry about that. So Justina just joined. Hello, Tina, can you hear me?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, so we just got started actually, like 2 minutes ago. So what we are saying is that right now, the things that we've done, we always have one element stacked on top of another, right? But look at the space on the right. We are not doing anything with it, right? Because we don't know how to do that yet. So we want to look at the display, CSS display, which is one of the things that we wanted to cover yesterday, but we couldn't. As soon as we finish that, then we are ready to start building this section. So, like display is one of the properties in CSS, and like every property, it also has a value, right? So once you mention that property, the value that you give to it is what determines how the elements are going to show on the page. So let's consider this element here. This is one element. And if we call the display property on the element, and then we set the value to block. Block means that take the whole screen. You want the element to take the whole screen, right? You don't want it to just take half of the screen or something. You want it to take the whole screen. So if you see any element that is taking the whole screen, once you initialize them, then the display property is going to be block. So, so we have 3 elements over here. All of them have a display property of what? Block. So they are taking the whole screen, as we can see. So the other property, the other value that the display property can have is called inline. So the inline property, if you call it on any element, the element is going to take as much space as it needs. Like if you look at element 1 here, look at the content of this element here is block element 1. That is the content. So essentially, up to this point, we were able to show the content of the element, but we didn't need all of this space. So there was no need for us to reserve all this space if we don't need it. But if you set the display to block, it's going to take the whole screen, whether it needs it or not. But inline block is going to take only the amount of space that it needs, and then the rest of the space is there. You can use it, but other elements can use that if they want to. So that is the difference between the inline and then the block. Another difference is that if you use the value block for the display, you are able to set the width and the height of the element. So the width property and the height property, they become available to you for usage if the display property of the element is block. But if the display property of the element is inline, then there is no height. You cannot set the height and the width. You can set it, but it won't happen. It's not going to work. So if you want the ability to have the width and the height and the width of the element, those properties available to you, then you have to use the third value, which is called inline block. Display inline block. So inline block, you have the element is going to take only the amount of space that it needs, and also you're going to have the ability to set the height and the width of the element. So this one here is kind of giving you the best of both worlds, if you think about it. So sometimes you need the block, sometimes you need the inline only, sometimes you need inline block. So I'm going to ask one question. The times that we need the inline, right? Can we always use the inline block for that instead? Like whenever you want to use the inline the value, can you still use the inline block and get the same ability, the same behavior or not? Based on what I said.
Can you repeat the question?
So I'm saying that if you use the block, it will take the whole screen. If you use inline, it's only going to take the amount of space that it needs, right? And what I mean by that is based on the length of the content. And then the rest of the space will be available. So now the third value, inline block, this one. It also gonna take only the amount of space it needs, but it will give you the ability to specify the height of the element and then the width of the element. So the inline alone doesn't give you that ability to set the height and the width. But we know that block gives you the ability to set it. So now the question is, in every time that you need to use the inline value, can you also use inline block as well?
No.
Why?
Because it won't give you an opportunity to set the
height.
width and the height. Yeah.
So actually, if you are using the inline, right, you cannot set the height and the width. But if you're using inline block, you can set the height and the width. If you want to, you don't have to set it, right? You can set it if you want, but you don't have to set it.
So for the inline, you would use it like as a, like if you want to put like a title, but for the display inline block, it's like you want to use a title and write information. Like you want to write a little bit more.
Actually, you can use it to write any length of content that you have. Like it's not dependent on the length of the content. It's all about the amount of space that you want to take. So if your content is a whole paragraph, a big paragraph, you can still use inline. When you do that, it will keep taking as much space as it needs. And then when it doesn't need it anymore, it will stop.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with the length of the content, but it has everything to do with the layout, the display of the elements. But remember, you want to design the page. So if you give it a block, then you can't do anything here. And sometimes that's what you want. Something like that, right? Depending on what you want, you have to use the inline or the inline block. So, but all I'm saying is that you can see that the inline block also contains the inline also. Because this one gives you more abilities than this one. But whenever you can use the inline, you can surely use the inline block also. Because this one is more powerful, but it contains this. And also, it also contains the block to a certain extent, but it doesn't reserve the whole screen. So it doesn't exactly contain the block, right? Because it doesn't reserve the whole screen. It's gonna reserve as much as needed, but you can set it. So essentially this one here is a subset of this one. But you know, you're gonna always be working with these three values, right? And the way you use them is going to determine how things are going to look on the page. So that is why I spent a little bit of time here to make sure that you soak it in. Sometimes you don't have a choice. You have to go by either this or that, right? Based on what you're doing. But so the next point I want to mention is that these are not the only values that the display property takes. There are two more values. There are actually three more values. So let me talk about the none first. So if you have an element and then you set the display property to none, what do you think is going to happen? Do you guys know what's going to happen? So you can say display property, make it a block, take the whole space. Oh, make it inline, just take whatever. But the other one is none. None means that don't show it, don't show the element. So the element is going to be hidden from the screen. So this is another useful value that when you're using JavaScript, sometimes you can say, oh, if this condition is not met, then this element change the display property from, say, block to none. So it's going to hide. So you can hide some of the elements until they click on a certain place, then you show them. So display property of none, value of none is useful also. So the other two properties, actually with these four, we can work with it. We can do a lot of things pretty much. But these two properties are very advanced properties. They are really, really advanced. And each of them may require a class of its own. So I'm just gonna say, let's forget about it. Just know that there is another value. There are two more values that the display property can take. And one of them is called a flex. And the other one is called grade. So grade and the flex, I will teach you this later on, maybe in our next class, or yeah, it could be in our next class also. I might teach it one value at a time, so we can have some practice on it, right? Okay, so that is, do you guys have any questions? And also, let me mention this. You can see that some of the tags, some of the elements that we've been using, they have the default display properties built into them. So they all have, like I said, most of the elements have a default value. So you can always change it if you want. But whenever you're using a div on the page, the display is going to be a block by default. So that is why if you look at the thing that we built yesterday, this whole thing is a div and it has reserved all this space to itself. We won't be able to use it because the div has reserved it. And if you want to see that that is true, let me see what I can do here. So we already have a border property set. And it's, oh, we have limited the width and the height. If we didn't have this, let me remove this and you see what's going to happen. Let me remove the width and the height. And let's see what happens. Hopefully, can you see that it's taking the whole space? Because as you know, the border, that is, the end of the whole element in the box model. So this is the display property of a block. We didn't have to set it because it is a default value for divs. Anytime you're using a div, that's the default behavior. And it's not only div, paragraphs are also like that. So, they take the whole space. Section is almost like a div also. It allows you to just divide the page into different parts if you want. But if you are using a button is one of the properties we saw, one of the tags, then that's going to be an inline. The display will be an inline value. So it's only going to take as much space as needed. That's it. And the anchor tag also, we saw it. It's also like that. Images, they are by default, they're going to be inline. So they take as much space as needed. Right. And inline block also, label, if you are using label, the select text area. These are all some of the elements, they are tags, okay? But you can use them to make elements, and by default, they have this. But you can always change it, right, depending on what you're doing. So I just wanted to mention that. If you don't have any questions, we can start developing the section. We can start developing this section now, if there are no questions. Okay, so I'm gonna create a folder, a new folder for today. I'm gonna call it CSS Day Three. And we can add a file in there, say, what should we call this? Demo.html. And I'm also thinking the CSS, I don't want us to do the CSS on the same page. But let's do it on the same page. Maybe it's faster that way we can see what we are doing. So that is the body section. So we want to design something. So let's see what we are doing. Let me bring up the page. We put it on the side, and then you guys will tell me what you think we need. So if your manager tells you to develop something like this, when I look at this, you can see that this whole thing is one element, and this is another element, and this is another one. And the three of them are inside another element, right? So you can see the space around it here. I can see that the three of them are inside a very big element over there, right? So that is the first thing that we probably want to do, okay? And you can see within this, what elements can we see in this? Like, first of all, we can see that this whole element is very, very similar to this one and this one, right? They seem to have things in common. So what are some of the common things that we see here between these three elements?
They
What
have
is
the
it?
same size. Okay, go ahead, Apana.
Okay. So they have an image.
Okay, they have the
Let me
same
see.
size. Thank you, Ibrahim. And then they have, all of them have images of
Yeah.
the same size also,
Mhm.
and at the same position, right?
Right.
So any other thing?
They also, is that at the bottom, is that a link, the visit page? Is that
Yeah,
called
so
a-
this, who knows the name of this? The way this, what do we call this?
Button.
A button. Yeah, so this is a button. They all have a button. Okay. So that's another one. Okay.
They have the same text alignment.
They have the same text alignment, yes.
Mhm.
And what do you think the alignment is?
H3 or
I
4?
think it's left aligned, but
Left aligned. It's left aligned.
also it looks like they are not really aligning it. See, this accommodation didn't fit here. That is why it went to the next line. So I don't think they are really doing any alignment there. It's the default alignment, right?
Oh, okay.
So this is just a paragraph, right? And
Mm.
as you know, the paragraph will take as much space as it needs. So never mind. That's something I see. Everybody can see something different. So yeah. And they all have a paragraph, right?
Mhm.
And what other thing do you think they have in common?
They
The
have
first line is in bold.
H3.
I'm sorry.
They're adding. They are
Yeah, they have
adding
the
there. I
heading.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's H3. The size.
And
Yeah,
it's bold, right?
Yeah.
yeah, and it's bolded also.
And it's bolded.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is good. Very, very, very good information. But one thing is also sure that the images are different, the contents are different, even the headings are also different.
Mhm.
So if we are designing it, we cannot use the same one design for all of them. We have to have three different designs. But let me mention this. I'm going ahead of the class, okay? You can see they have the same behavior. It is just the content that is different. Like the image is different, even the heading is also different, paragraph content is different. Other than that, all of these are the same. When something like this is happening in programming or in software development, we call it a loop. There is a loop happening. You're doing the same thing many times. So you're doing the same thing many different times. The only thing that is changing is the data. So I bet you the way they have designed this page, they can use just one element and then they can be looping through the data that they are showing. We're gonna get to that point, but for now we are not there yet. So we have to manually create 3 different elements and then make sure that we are putting the data there by ourselves. But in a typical software development, the data is gonna come from the database, and the data will have an image, which is a link to an image. It's gonna have a heading, and it's gonna have a paragraph. This is a text. This is a text also. And then this button, when you click on it, it goes to a different place. So there's a URL at the back, and the URL is not the same, right? It's not the same. So the data from the back is going to have a URL also. So all you have to do is just tell it where to show it, and then it's going to show it. But don't worry about that. It's kind of, we're going to get to that point. Okay, so let's start developing this. So I'm going to have a div, because all of this, they all live in a div. They live in they live in something. So let's make that a div. You may be able to use something else. So I have a div that's going to contain the 3 of these. So now let's create one of these elements. So we can see that we have an image tag, H1, paragraph, and a button, and they all live in another container. They also live in a container. That's why you can control them like that, right? So let's get another div also. So that is where we have the idea of parent, So I want this div over here to contain everything that we see in this image, right? So what do we see in there? See, I'm not looking at anything. I'm trying to do this with you. Like if I had to develop this, that's exactly how I'm gonna do it. So I'm just thinking with you and developing, and let's see what we can get out of this. Okay, so there is an image here, right? So actually, let's have all the 3. It doesn't matter. We can have all the 3 first, but we know there are 3 divs in there, the containers. So I can have 1 here and 2 there. So the way this is looking, I don't like it. So let me just make it be on one line like this. You only put a space here if you are ready to enter something there, right? So I want to have an image in the first div, right? I want to have an image over here. How am I going to do that? What tag do I need? The image tag, right?
Yep, image.
So the image tag is going to give me an image. So this is the way it is, but you have to specify what image you want to show, right? So in our folder, we have the images in the images folder, right? You can put them in anywhere, but you have to specify what image you want to use. So I'm just going to enter images and then see if I'm going to see. Let me teach you this right now. So we are inside this folder. This folder, we are in here, but we want to reference an image in another folder here. So the way you do it, you can copy these images into the same folder. Let me teach you that today. Is very crucial. If I copy the images here, now I have the folder and the file in the same location. So I can just say images. You don't need to do anything, just say images. You mention the name of the folder, and then you see you have all the images available. You can pick any one of them. So this alt, you use this one if you want to give a title to the image. We don't need that now because these images don't have a title at the bottom telling us what they are. So if I save this right now, let's see what we get. And today I'm gonna try to use the live server also. Hopefully that works. Yesterday, it didn't work for us. So it said this has already started. Okay, so let me close this and then try to open it again. I'm thinking that because we were using it. So even today too, the live server didn't help us. I have to look at what is happening because even this morning it was working, but suddenly it's not working. It's all right. There are two ways to run your code. So right now, this is what we've done. Like I told you, this image tag is going to take all the space that it needs. And the size of the image that we are using is very, very big. So it's taking the whole screen, right? So that's the size of the image. So let's go back. And then, we have two other divs on the page, but you don't see them. So you are not seeing the div because there is no content in them. Let's just put something here. Test one, test I, so we can see that it's also there too. If you don't put any content, there is nothing to show on the page. Just refresh that. Okay, so you can see them at the bottom here. So it is a div. So because this is a div, it's reserving the rest of the screen, right? That is why this one came to the next line. So it's the concept, and then the other div is over here. Let's keep developing. Normally you want to finish with the HTML before you start with the design. So now we have the image. We need to have a heading, right? So we have the image for the first div. We can repeat it for the second div and the third, whichever way you want us to go. But I want us to finish the first one first, and then we do the same thing in the others. It's up to you. You can go whichever way you want. So I want us to have, I want us to code this section. How are we going to do it? We are still within the first div. Underneath the image, we want to have a heading here, right? So say H, somebody recommended H3. So let me just use H3 tag. And then, what is the content of it? Copy this and paste it. Just copy and paste it. That's it. So this is going to take care of this one here. And if you want to see it, you can always save and then refresh your page. And we have it here. But this is going to be plain HTML. That is why it is looking ugly. But as soon as we start using the CSS techniques that we've learned, then it will be very easy. If I asked you to design this one, everybody could do this because it's HTML. We haven't done any CSS yet. So now let's add a paragraph. We want to do this section. So it's a paragraph, right? Guys, you can say something.
Yeah.
Right? This is a paragraph. If you are lost, you can ask any question. And whatever I'm doing, if it doesn't make sense, just stop me. So as a developer in a company, this is what you're going to be doing, right? They give you, your manager will design this for you and say, go and build it. They'll design it using anything. They can even draw it on paper. But you have to build this one. But like I said, in the industry, you need to create a table in the database to store the link to the image. You need to create another column in the table to store the heading. You need another column to store the paragraph. And then you need another column to store the URL that when you click on the button, it will go. Then you put all this data in the database, and then you read it from the database, and you bring it to the UI, and then you tell it where to show it. Very simple. That's all there is to software development, guys. Okay, so we have a paragraph here. What I just did, I just copied everything here. I don't have to, again, they'll give this to me. The company will give you the text. All you have to do is to show it nicely here. So that's also there. We can see what we've done. It's a good practice to always keep seeing what you are doing, right? So we have this, we have that, it's plain HTML. Okay. Now there is one more piece of the puzzle, which is the button. How do I create the button? It is just a button, right?
Button, yeah.
I'm using the shortcut, so you can just type the name button and then you hit the tab and then it will finish it for you. But you don't have to do that. You can always do it. You can, you can type it all by yourself and it's also fine. So this button, right now, this is the button. We have a button. So what is the content of this button?
Visit page.
Visit page. So you put that in the middle. Visit page. You just type it exactly the way they gave it to you. That's it. So of course, when we click on this, we want it to go somewhere. So that's going to be the href. Right now, we don't know it. Href means, reference. You do this, you just specify the URL over here. We can even specify our company site. Let's just specify the home page. The home page. We don't have to do that here, but I'm just doing it for curiosity's sake, so that we can, this is a complete button. Now, if we go to the page and refresh, this is what we have. You can see the image is really big. It's taking all the space. So guys, this really completes the work, right? But we need to repeat the same thing for the other divs. Do you think we should do that now, or we should start doing some designs first?
I like to see with the designs first.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing that we can see here. Okay, to do the design, there are many different ways of doing it, but I just want us to do it in the head section. We could have put our code in an external file, or we could put it here, or we can also put it here, right? We all know that. So I want us to put a design here. So now the first trick is coming up. As we know, these divs by default, they're gonna be block displayed, right? And if they are block displayed, it means that they will take the whole space. The divs that we have. We have 3 divs in here. 1, 2, 3. And they are all taking the whole space. And if that's gonna happen, there's no way we're gonna have this behavior. We know that, right? But we want to have the 3 of them next to each other. Do you all agree to that?
Yes.
So if this is going to be a block display block, then we are not going to have this behavior ever, because this alone is going to reserve the rest of the space. So in order to have the divs next to each other, what do we have to do?
Is it?
We have to use
inline block.
Sorry?
Inline block.
Inline block or inline. These are the 2 things, the 2 choices we have. So first of all, let me use the inline first. And I'm using it on the divs. Right? Normally, when you use a div, it's so important to also give them IDs or classes, because you're gonna have to design them. So let's add the classes here. Sorry, I should have done that at the beginning. So see that there are certain things that are common to both of them. And maybe I don't even see anything that is unique to any of them. Like all the designs are the same for all of them, as we can see. So we can just do the design one time and then just assign it to all the 3. So let me just say div, I'll say inner div. I'm not good at naming things. So just a class, right? It's an ID. I'm giving the same ID to the other divs also. So they have the same behavior. So whatever we do to this should automatically apply to that too. So first of all, the display of this div is what? Block. We don't want that. So this is a class, so you have to start it with a dot, you need to select what you want to apply the styles to, right? You are selecting it. So now we need a display property, and the value we cannot use block. So we want to use inline first. Let's see what this does. So let's see if this makes any difference for us on our page. You guys understand what we've done? In order to apply any CSS to any element on the page, you need to select that element, right? And when we did the analysis, we saw that these divs, they have the same behavior. So we are calling all of them by the same name. So that we can call all of them at one time. That's what we are doing here. So now when we come here and we do the refresh, what changes can you guys see over here? I'm gonna comment this out for now and save it. And then take a look at what's happening. Right now, this is what we see. Now all I'm doing is I'm changing the display property of all the 3 divs, not just one of them. Remember, the inner div, I'm giving it to all the 3 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I save this, I'm changing the display property to inline block. Suddenly see what happens. I mean, I wish I gave you guys enough practice of the inline before we did this, but it's okay. Oh gosh, I should have really done that first, but. So now can you guys spot any difference at all?
Can you scroll down a little bit?
That is the end of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So see, look at the code carefully. We are using the inline, right? So what does it mean? The fact that div is going to take as much space as it needs, right? And we can see the image is very, very big. So it still took the whole space. And then after the button, it didn't need the rest of the spaces. So the other divs, they started taking those spaces, right? So the first div would take the rest of the space, which is that. And then the third div will also take the rest of the space left, right? But the display is no longer blocked, right? Does this make sense? If I give you guys a little practice of how this inline stuff works, it could have been very easier for you to grasp this. And it's not too late. Let's just go back to this code that we wrote yesterday and do some very, very short analysis over there. We know that these are what? Block displayed. So that's what they are taking the whole screen. So that we all understand. Let's see what we can do to this. So div, these are the only 2 divs on the page. So we can just keep using the div. It references all of them. I'm gonna change the display property here. Display property to inline. Let's see what happens. If I refresh, suddenly things are beginning to collapse into each other. And it's really messy. Maybe it's because maybe the stuff we've done don't make sense anymore. Let's see what we've done. You see, guys, can you see when you do something that doesn't make sense, it will give you something nasty. So it always talks back to you. Then you know that, hey, I have to think a little bit more. What have we done here that doesn't make sense? Let's see. So we are setting the margin. We can set the margin. There is no display inline padding. We are setting. So we are setting some heights over here, right? Because the padding, giving the padding this much distance and all of that, it looks like we are trying to use the width and the height properties, and you are not allowed to do that if you have the inline, okay? So let me remove all this notion of heights from the code. even this one too. It's also setting the height and the width somehow. And let's see if something makes sense now. So the first div has tech mastery, lorem ipsum, that. So essentially, this one makes sense to me. The first div is taking the rest, the top. Let me try to make it bigger. So the first div is taking all this space, because it looks like it needs all of it. And then the second one is at the bottom. Okay, that's all right. This one looks good. Let me put all of them in one div and see it's even useful to put in one div. Maybe that doesn't, we probably don't have to do that. Let me now make them inline block so we can now set the width and the height. That helps us see more difference. So let's add the inline block there. So the same behavior. Well, I see some things moving around. Oh, so suddenly this one came up. This one came up. So we see the inline properties now working, really. The inline block seems to be more useful for us now. So this one is taking as much space as needed, and then the second div is stepping in. But let me, the reason why the inline didn't work, I didn't see any, I think there was no idea of height inside it, but it's all right. Let's specify the width and see what happens. The width of the div, say, call them, say 70 pixels each. 70 pixels each. So you see what's happening? The first div is only 70 pixels. The width is only 70 pixels. And then the second one will come. So 70 pixels is a very small number. That's why it's behaving like this. So let's make this a 270. Make it slightly bigger. Okay, so suddenly they have enough space to contain whatever they have. But we can see that one div is not taking the whole space, at least. And, you know, the two divs are all on the same line. You know, this behavior is what we need. We are also able to set the width and even the height also. So we can also set the height if we want. It's not that, you know, difficult, right? What we are learning. Once you understand these little things, you can build a lot of things with it. So the height is there, but we don't see it. That's all right. Let's see if we can, now we can have the border for sure. So border, say 3 pixels, solid, and then color red, color blue is fine. Let's see what we get. Yeah. So this is what we are getting. It's very, because they are not in the same div, so they are not, we cannot really control the two of them together. They are not in the same div, right? If we put them in the same div, then we can make them center and, you know, do other things that we want. They are not in the same div. They don't have a parent. They are all independent people. So they are doing whatever they want. But if I want to put spaces between this, and this, that's the only question I'm asking. Then we're gonna go back, right? But I'm just trying to show you the behavior, the inline block, what it does, right? The divs will stack next to each other, but we need that. What if I want to put one space between these two divs? What property do I need to change? Just one question here, and then we go. We have the border. I want to put space between them. Sorry?
Margin.
What, can you say that again?
Margin.
You said margin?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Margin is what we need. Thank you. So set a margin. This can say 45 pixels. We have enough room for that. So, and boom. Okay, so if I want the space just around, I don't want the space here, I just want it here. And it has to be margin left, margin right. You all know that, so no need to spend too much time over here. Let's go back to what we are doing. Our work is almost done, it looks like, but where is the folder that we are in today? Okay, day 3. So that. Oh, so the images, I wanted to show you how to reference them if you don't have the folder in the same location. Guys, let me show that now too, because I might forget. See, currently the images folder is in the same location as what our file. So you just type the name of the folder and then everything is good. Let me delete it from here. Let's see what happens. So it's removed. Let's refresh. It is still there. Wow. Delete. Move to trash. Okay, so it's no longer there. Now, if I execute this code, the image is going to go away. The image is gone, right? Because it's not able to see the image. So the way to do it, you want to come out of this folder and then you enter into another folder. So the way you do it, you have to say ... You have to begin with ... slash. This means that you are now out of the folder. You're now out of the current folder. So you can enter another folder now. So you can enter images. You can enter images. And then you can now select any image. So this is probably a different, we may have selected a different one, but it doesn't matter. There are 3 images there. You can choose any one of them. But let's choose the one that we had before, so that for consistency. You know, guys, there is no one way of doing this, right? So this is the image we had before. And because the image is taking too much space, we can even remove it for now so we can see what we are doing. We'll bring it back later on. So you can put pound over here. When you click on it, it won't go anywhere. So let's just remove the image, but we can still have it there. But I just want to remove it for now so that things will be easier for you to see. So this is what we have. So we are using the inline display property, and it's doing this. But we want to specify the height and the width. So the inline will not be able to do that. What do we need? Inline block. But we want to specify the height. But you can see on the page, there is a height. Definitely there is a height and there is a width. So we need the inline block to be able to do that. So now once we refresh the page, nothing really, oh, something even happens. So it has an idea of the width and the height now. Even though we didn't specify it, it's kind of aware because it knows that the first div is taking all this much space. So after that, we can continue with the other divs. Okay, so that's what was happening in the first exercise we did. If you don't have the inline block, it has no idea of width. So this will just begin from here. Right, so you guys, you are seeing the difference. Now, let's specify some height here, right? I mean, you can specify any height. It's all up to you. But let me just specify any height. If what we specify doesn't make sense, we can change it. Say 300 pixels. And then the width, we can see the height is bigger than the width. So let's give it, say, 150 for now. And save it. Let's see what we have. Okay, so we see we have this, right? And it's hard for you to see the divs. So let's give it, how can we make the divs visible? Right? You can't even tell that this is a div. What is the easiest way to make it visible? Set the border property. We can make it, say, 2 pixels. Then we use dash. See, there are many different types of border you can set. I'm using the dash, and then the color, let's use, what color do they have on the page? Actually, we cannot use dash because what they have is not dash. They have a border there and it's not dash. So the color is also, looks like gray to me. So I'll just make it gray. gray color. So I'll just show you how the dash is going to look like, and then so it didn't work. What's happening? Okay, maybe we had to end it. That's why. Border 2 pixels, gray, inner divs. Why would this not work? It's a little strange. Let's use a different color and see. Maybe it's working, but we just don't see it. Oh gosh. So this one, if you just type the name of the color, you won't be able to pick it. Oh, so we can pick it. That's good. But yeah, so it's RGB. RGB you can pick. I don't know if that's why it didn't work. So that's not why it didn't work. So border 2 pixels. Let's make it solid, because I think the dash. Oh, actually, it's probably dashed. Yeah. Sorry. So there was a typo there. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So this is the border. As we can see, that is not the type of border that they have. They have the solid. So we are not going to use the dashed. There are many different ones you can pick from. So let's use solid. And then the color they chose looks like gray to me. So I'll just use gray color. So let's save this. Oh gosh, sorry. Should be let me remove these 2 pages, they are confusing to us. And now we have a solid border. Okay. So why all these nasty behaviors? So you see, we have a bigger div, so we can now use it to control how things are looking and they are behaving. We want to keep them next to each other. So we need to pick this div over here to force everything to stay in the same place. So let's give it an ID. You can give it anything. So ID, I'll call it main. I'll call it parent div. And here we will say, because it's an ID, you need a pound. You could have used a class also. You can use anything. Parent div. So let's see what's happening here. This div, let's make the display block and see what happens. Make sure that it's a div, so the display is already blocked. So I don't think that would help us much. But I'm wondering why the height, let's give it a border and see. We want to know what is happening. I want to be able to explain what we are doing to you guys. Solid, and then say red. I'm putting a border there to see what is happening. Of course, it's a block, so we're gonna see a big red thing around it like that. Okay, so this is what we see. So for me, if I want this one to be on the same line as this, let's use some alignment and see if alignment is one way to do stuff. So let's see. Let's use text align and see what we get. Text align. It's not really a text. Definitely not center, but we don't want them to center. Okay. That's what it's this. We're trying to think, right? You see some behavior. How can I get what I want? So it's centering everything. That's not what we want. Okay. I want to let's see if we can change the display property and see something. Display to inline block and see if that makes a difference. I don't expect this to make a difference, but who knows? Let's see. So that only shortened, doesn't need all this space. So this is unexpected behavior. Okay. So essentially that's not what we want. I want to set the height of it. I believe maybe the height will help us. Right now, see, the height is so big, so these things are floating up and down. What if we make the height the same as the height of this element in there, or a little bit bigger than it. Let's see what happens if we do that. So you can set the height a little bit bigger than the other one, say 330 pixels. Let's see if that forces that. So that didn't help. So guys, I want you to think, okay, tell me what we can do to make this and this have the same height. I'll give it a minute. Let's all think about it.
Can you put on the code again, please?
Oh, sorry. I want you guys to think a little bit, okay? See if you get any ideas.
This is to align the text.
To do the text align. So the text align is useful, but it didn't help us much. We can try it again. Text align, say center, or just, it's gonna center everything. Let's save it.
You want to increase the height of the border.
Increase the height of the border. Actually, increase the height of the border. This height, yeah, if we increase it, yeah, it will contain all of them, but I want this one to come up here. I want this, because this is what, inline block. They are supposed to be next to each other, which they are. But what is this huge space at the top here, right? So let's inspect the page. That's one way to also see what is happening. Inspect it. Then we can see this one has that. Let's see this one. Oh, sorry. I know what's happening. It's because, oh my God. See, there is no content in this, right? So this one, there is something called a baseline property. The divs are being aligned using the baseline property. So they are making sure that the first element in each of the divs is exactly on the same line as the end of everything that is in the first div. Can you see that there is a pattern, right? So this is just by experience. I know this by experience. So if we increase what is in this, it will automatically move up. It will automatically move up. So let's put some content in the other divs also. At this point, you can do that. I'm sorry?
What allowed you to see that?
You see, I didn't get the gist from here. I can see the second div. This is the only thing we have in the text I. The third one only has this. So the content is very small. So when the content is very small, the default behavior is to put some order. The way they do it, they just align the first content. You see the content, they align it with the end of the content of it. So I don't know how to put this, but let's assuming that this one also has only text 0 in it, this one, then the text 0 will have to be on the same line as this and this. That is the default behavior. If this, so they make sure they are aligning the contents. The contents are supposed to be on the same line as much as possible. So that will help us. See, they want the content to be on the same line, okay? So right now, what is the content in the first div? It's all of this, right? So where does it end? It ends over here. And then now this one begins from here, this one begins from here. So this one makes sense to them because as far as they are concerned, the content of this ends here. And I mean, assuming this was just one line, let me demonstrate it because I think I'm not able to explain it in words. Let me just remove everything in here.
So if you can basically like copy and paste what's in the first one.
Yes, but I want to
be-
just, I want to just demonstrate something. What they are doing is that they want to make sure that the contents are all on the same line, right? So if one of the divs has more contents, then it's going to push the rest of the divs at the bottom. Otherwise, if they put this one at the top here, the contents are not on the same line. But this text will be at the top here, and then the rest of this will be at the bottom. That's not order. You see, what I did is the first div, I took out everything in it, and I gave it the same amount of content as the other divs. Suddenly, can you see that they are the same height?
Mhm.
So what they are trying to do is to make sure the text are on the same line. There's a property for that. They call it the baseline property. Baseline property. We're going to learn it. I don't want to disturb you guys, what this one takes. So baseline property, maybe you turn it on and off. I don't remember the values that it takes, but we'll learn it, okay? But it's a property of the page to make sure that the contents are always on the same line. So now, let me show you something. Assuming I put break here. We are just trying to solve a problem. Test 2.2. I'm creating another line, okay? Suddenly, can you see that this is going down? But the text in the content in this div ends over here. So the only way to have them be on the same line is to move the rest of the divs down, right? So there's still some order happening there. I hope this makes sense, but it's just the default behavior. Maybe there is a way to turn that off. We'll figure, as we keep learning, we will learn the tricks, okay? Tina, are you convinced about what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see the length, so it has to push the rest down. They want to align them. They have to be on the same line. The text, the content, it has nothing to do with the height. It's just the content. So now let's fill up the content for the other divs, which is, as I feel you said that we can copy everything, we can copy everything from here and just change what we need to change, right?
Right.
That's perfect. That's exactly what I would do. So I'll put a space. Then let me also do the same for the third div. Now, if I save this, you see, you just put the thought into doing something small, then the rest of it is just copy and paste, right? That's all it is. So if I refresh this page, what do you think is going to happen? Who can tell me what's going to happen?
They're all going to be on the same level.
They will be on the same line. That's the first thing. Then what's going to happen again?
It's going to have the same setup as the first one.
In other words, the same content that is here is going to be in this and that, right?
Right.
The same content. Okay, thank you. So that's exactly what I thought also. Okay, so the text align is working, but we can see that we don't have the text align property here. So it's okay for us to remove it for now. We may need it, but we can remove it from the parent div for now. Oh, should we really remove this? Let me just remove it for now, because we may get to the point where we need it. So
I have a question. In this, can you use the break? The break line, what's it called? The one where you just press the dot for the code not to read it. Was it the break line?
The one that, to stop the code from executing?
Yeah, like certain lines.
Oh, yeah, breakpoints.
Oh, breakpoint, yep.
Maybe,
so in this situation, would you be able to use the breakpoint?
For the front-end development, we use a breakpoint in code, right? And as you know, HTML, we don't call it coding per se.
Okay.
CSS also is not coding, but JavaScript is coding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so with JavaScript, we might be able to do it. Let me put a breakpoint here. We can do it in JavaScript because I do it at my job. I'm putting the breakpoint here, you see. Let's see if it works. I'm not expecting it to work, right? See, it's not working.
Mhm.
You still see the page. So with the front end, it's only when you have the JavaScript code that you can put a breakpoint in it. Does it
So
make
it has to be. So it has to be like a programming language.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
the idea of HTML not being a programming language, people debate over it all the time, right? Because some people think it's a programming language, some think it's not, right? So, but it's mostly people think it's not, but it's very useful. Without this one, there is no software development. So I'm also doing the text align because I think we need it. It's all right to have it. So now let's increase the height a little bit. So I think, okay, sorry, let's quickly get the content. Right, we copied and pasted, we need to change the content, right? Sorry guys, okay, so we just have to change the relevant content. So this is gonna go into the second div, the heading, we change it. You see, just knowing where to change is even a big thing, guys. Just knowing where to change is a big thing. So the paragraph. For now, this I will let it go to the same place, so it's all right. So this one too, we change it. Let's change it. When we start the coding, this will come from the back. Like I said, it will come from the database. So you won't be, you just do only one div like this. Then you tell it to repeat itself 3 times. But every time it should use a different data from the database, that's all. So now when we save this, let's see what we got. This is what we got. So guys, once again, you can see that the length of this paragraph is bigger than this one and all of that. That is why it is moving down to make sure that happens, right? So one way to solve this problem is to increase the width of the page, the width of this, so that these paragraphs will just spread more evenly, right? And be on the same line. So I want to increase the width a little bit so that this will not take so many lines. Currently, how many lines is this one taking? It's taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. Then this one is taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is taking 4. If I increase the width, it will take lesser lines, right? So let's do that. So I'll increase the width to say 250. You know, you just do trial and error, right? And once I did that, see, they're beginning to look alike. So this is taking 4 lines. This is taking 3. This is taking 2. Let's see here. So here we can see that this is taking 4 and this is taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And still they still have the same height. Okay. No problem. We're gonna figure out what's going on. Okay, let's increase the height a little bit also. Because I think it looks big, it looks taller here. So we can make the height say, just, you know, say 500 pixels. Oh, see, I have to refresh this one instead. So again, the 500 is way bigger than the parent div. So then this is happening. So we just have to increase the parent div's height also to something bigger than 500, say 600. 600, right? But you cannot fit something, you want to fit something that is of height 500 pixels into something that is of height 200. It doesn't make sense. The parent should always have a bigger size to be able to contain. So let's see what we have. So this is beginning to, the height, I think the height that we have is pretty okay for now. Let's now bring the image, okay? Okay, we can do some design here. We want to put some spaces between this. What do you guys think we should do? the margin, right?
Yeah.
We need to separate them out a little bit, and eventually we need to have it to be even. Here they are doing something that we haven't learned yet, so it's they're able to have this and this exactly the same. That is one of the other properties. The two properties I said we're going to do later on, they are using one of them. It makes your life very, very easy. If you are using that property, you can finish this in 5 minutes. Very, very fast. So let's put some margin. Okay, so this margin, we can put it on the parent div. 1 second. Margin. So the parent div, we are not separating anything out here. So we will not put it on the parent div. Let's put it on the inner divs, right? We want the inner divs to have the margin, not the parent div. So let me put it here. And see, just little stuff, right? And they make a huge difference. So the margin here, let's use 50 pixels. 50 pixels is too big, but we just keep playing with it. Okay, so they're spaced out, 50 pixels apart. I want to increase the width a little bit because we have all this space. And guys, see how the spaces are almost similar. They are almost the same. Let's just increase this, the width a little bit more. So that, the margin won't be that big. Let me reduce the margin to say 30 pixels and then increase the width to say 300 pixels to make this look beautiful a little bit. Yeah. And so now this and this are taking the same amount of lines. That's why they are the same height. No problem. We're gonna worry about that later on. Okay. Do you guys want to increase the width a little bit more, or you think it's okay? I think the width is okay. Right, the width is okay. Okay, so now let's add the image. Let's add the image. So we're just gonna point it. Can somebody tell me how to get the image? I'm sure Kofi may be gone by now, but I believe he will watch the video. So no problem. We'll be finishing this very soon. Guys, we are in this folder. I want to get an image in here. Can somebody try how to point to it?
You have to copy and paste.
I have to copy and paste. What?
You have to bring it into the folder of demo HTML.
Oh yeah, so that's one way of doing it. And then once you do that, you can just tell the path, right? But that's the easiest way. So sometimes you don't have that ability to move folders around in the code. So we can just do that. We have to do 2 dots to get out of a folder. So now that we are out of this folder, what folders are here? Assuming this image folder was not here and it was another step above us. Let me demonstrate that. I'm making things hard, but it's okay because I just want you to understand it, guys. So assuming we have a test folder here, it's already there. And then our image is in here. I already copied, let me paste it. So yeah. And then, so we don't have any images here. So we come out, there is no image. We need to go out of this location again. Actually, we need to enter this folder and then go 1 step down. So this is not a good demonstration. I could go 1 step above this to create it, to put these images. And then you have to keep going like that. You just have to do another double dot, then you are out of the current folder. So now these are the folders I have in this location. None of them is useful to me. So because it is in the test folder, I have to go into the test folder now and then to images, and then you see, I see them there. You can pick any one that you want. So if I do this, a lot of my code is going to break because currently I have my images sitting here. So a lot of the code, they are pointing to it here. So let me paste it back. So, oh, okay. So I'm going to find a way to bring this back. So let me just copy all of it one by one. Yes, I'm going to cut it. I'm taking it out of there. I'll put it in here. So images, and then go into it. Oh, sorry. Where's the images? Okay, and then paste. Okay, so I'm going to delete this now because I don't need it. Yeah, you know, some little tricks. This is a very important technique that you would have to know sometimes when you're doing these things. Otherwise, so right now we just go one step above, and then we have the images folder. We go into it and then choose the image that we made. So now if I refresh this, see the image is still very big, right? We have to control it because images by default are inline, okay? They will take as much space as possible. So we need to change it from inline to inline block and then specify the width and the size. So let's just add another, let's just do all the images. So the second one, I'm going into the images folder. I'll pick another image. I want to pick something else. Okay. And then let me see the new image. Yeah. Now the third image, I'll pick the third one. 1, 2 in the images. And then we'll pick California. So now we have 3 different images on the page, and they are all going crazy. So the sizes are very big. But we can control it. That's it. We can control it, but we know what to do. It's inline, so it's going to take all the space. Let's change it. We know exactly what to do to change it. We can select images because, you see, we can give it an ID, or we can just call it by the tag name. Let's just call it by the tag name because I believe whatever we do, whatever design we give to one of the images has to be the same for the others anyways. So what is the first thing we have to do here? The display, we need to change it from inline to inline block. This one, you don't have a choice. You have to do it like this. Other than that, there will be a problem. But again, just doing that won't help us because it will still take a lot of spaces. We need to now specify the height and the width. Once we do that, then the things will work. So let's add, first of all, let's do the width. What do you think the width should be if we want the images to fit in this folder? First of all, what is the width? Let's think about it. What do you think the width of the image should be if we want it to fit here? It should be the same width as the width of what? The div, right?
The content, yeah.
Of the content, yes. So in your code, inner div, what is the width? It's 300 pixels.
300.
So you give it the same width and you achieve that. Save it. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Suddenly there is a lot of order happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is that it's pushing some of the contents away because now the height is behaving whatever way it wants. So we have to tame the height also. And the way we do it is to set it. Can I set a height that is bigger than the inner div's height? No, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can set, we can set about half of it or a little bit below half of it. So the main one is 500 pixels.
200.
Height. We can make it say 200 pixels, something less than half is fine. You always have to do educated guesses. Yeah. But you can see the numbers have to make sense. And suddenly we have this. But I'm very uncomfortable. The fact that this one and this are not the same height. Do you know how I'm going to make it the same height? For one way to do it is to increase. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say add more content.
Add more content. Thank you. So that is the naive way to do it. And that's what I'm going to do at this point, to add more content. Yay. Like if I'm doing this in the industry, I'm gonna call the manager and say, please, could you find a way to make this slightly bigger? If he says no, then I'll have to crack my brain to still make sure the height is the same. And it's easy to do that too. I can show you how to do that. We can give this an ID and then give it some margin of 0 or something. We can try that now. I don't know if it's gonna work, but again, let's add more content and see. That's the naive approach. And suddenly it came up, but not all the way up, because it's still one line short, right? But this one is still one line short. So let's add one more. It's a solution, you know. Always just knowing what to do is the good thing. Lorem, say let's add 12 numbers from Lorem Ipsum. And see. So now it's way bigger now, so it has more than enough words. We can cut it short a little bit. How many of it is overflowing? 3 lines. You can just remove them. 3 lines. Let's remove this sentence. That's fine. Yeah, same height. Okay, this looks really beautiful, guys. It's an amazing work, right? It's a really amazing work. Can you see how similar it is to this?
Mm-hmm.
So can you guys tell any difference? Tell me any difference that you can see, point it out, and let's make sure we get it. We do it. Because I know we can do it exactly as it is.
Oh, the blue for the visit page for the color.
Oh, the color of that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's do it. So once you spot one, so if I want to change the color of the blue is the button, right?
Yeah, it's the button.
So we'll pick the button, say button. And then what property do you think we need? Background.
Background. Mm-hmm.
Background color. I believe it's probably background color. Let's say. Sometimes it's okay to forget the properties. You can Google. How can I make the background of my color blue? And then you can copy the code. Somebody will tell you the answer. You copy and you paste it. See, all you need is just a firm understanding of what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you cannot really ask a question, right? So the background did it for us, but now we don't have, what other color do you think we need? Actually, it's not exactly blue. Their color is not exactly blue, but it's something different. Let's see if we can see their color. So we know what color they are using. We just inspect the page to see. And we can just use the same thing.
And then just copy and paste it.
Yep. So do we see any color? Let's hover again. You see the color is the FFF. Actually, because I'm hovering on the text, so the text is FFF. We know what FFF is. It's white. But look at the background in hexadecimal. Let's see if it shows up in here. We can just copy it from here. So I think it's this. So it shows up in there. This is the CSS code. You go to styles, then you see the CSS code.
055.
Yes, please. And I go back to our code, the same background color. We use that one that they have. And now we should have something similar to what they got. Yeah, now this is exactly the color they have. So now you can see, of course, their button is designed beautifully. They have more designs for the button. See, this button, all of these designs are for the button. All of these designs. Let's see if we can copy. All of that design goes to the button. So, but everything that we put here, we just want to understand it. So let's see something here. Yeah, we also brought all of them here and just copy and put them here. Let's see. Oh gosh. And it doesn't matter. I wanted to align them, but let's see what we get now. Can you see now we have exactly the button that is here. Guys, I'm teaching you how to develop things. But let's go through what they've done. Let's go through it. So there is one thing I'm going to teach you. You know, the border is 0. It means you don't give it any border. But border radius is the curves. You see how the edges of the border is curving? We call it border radius. And if you make it bigger, if you want to make this a circle, let's see how you can do it. See, the rem, we know this is the size of the root directory. So you can still use pixels, but it's all right. Let me just keep what they have, but let's keep increasing this and then you see what's going to happen. If I make it 0.5, the border radius. You see, the more you increase it, the more this is curving. Let's make it 0.9. Check, pay attention to the edges, you see? Now let's make this 4. We are increasing it, right? Pay attention to it. It's curving more. Let me make it, say, 24. Sometimes if you want to design, you see, this is a beautiful design. We can keep it like this. Your manager can say, I want the button to have this, but it's time. But I want to make it a circle. Let's see how this can become a circle. I don't know if it's possible, but it's possible to make it a circle. Yeah, if this was a box, then we could make it a circle by, but it's not a box, it's a rectangle, so it's hard to make it a circle. I mean, how do we make this a box? I mean, a square. It is a box and it's a rectangle. If you want to make it a square, how do you do it? You make sure the width and the height are the same. And then you keep doing this. We can easily make it, but we'll keep this design. We like it. So the color of the text, I was about to say we do it. If you want to, we want the text to be white, you set it white. So one thing I didn't mention yesterday, the hexadecimal numbers. If you have something like F, see, this 2 Fs is what's giving you the 255. But because it is repeated character, you can just write one of them. It's a simplification. So if I leave, this is still going to work the same way, but you can shorten it and say, just write 1 F because the 2 is the same. Anytime you have the same number repeating, you can just write one of it. So this would work the same way as only 3 Fs. If we make it 3 Fs, it's also going to work. So that's just a shortcut, right? And it's still the same. Yeah. And if I put white over here, it's still going to be the same. Okay, guys, so that is the button, but we need to, I think that we need more spaces between, we need more spaces. I mean, subtle changes. I believe we finished it, but let's see if there are subtle things that we haven't done. I think we need more spaces between this and this, right? And this one shouldn't be all the way in the middle, right? So how do we do that? We want spaces between the paragraph and the button. I mean, we can do it in the button also. We can set the margin top, but we just want the top. We can increase it to say 30 33 pixels and see. 33 pixels. Let's see what happens. And boom, it's going down, right? Like I said, if you want spaces, you always think about margin. Once you know these things, man, you are a master, man. For me, I was doing development, I was designing pages, and I didn't know when to use margin, when to use padding, and when to use the border radius. And my life was very uncomfortable. I had to do trial and error before things worked. But if you do trial and error, it's going to work eventually. But you can spend a whole day just trying things. You'll be very, very frustrated. But once you have the knowledge, the foundational knowledge, you know exactly what to change to get what you want. So we can increase it more, you know, it's just up to us. We can just make it 60. Just want it to be at the bottom. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Guys, I believe we have done the design, really. But you can also see that the top here, the border radius, this one is not, it's not like the bottom. You see? This is pointed and this one is a curve. So that's the border radius. So let's see how we're gonna achieve that. Border radius. So we just want to set, so which element are we going to set it on? The inner divs, right? Inner divs. So just go to the inner div. Border radius. I'm just saying border radius. Oh, see, you can see we have the top left, top right, and then the end start and the end. So that I believe this side is going to be the top right corner. So top right border radius. Let's make it say 5 pixels. So it's giving us specifics, right? We're able to tell it exactly where we want it, just here. But we need it here and here, right? Because we can see they have it there and there, but they don't have it here and there. But just knowing that, oh, to achieve this curve is border radius. There's no other way to do it. It's the border radius. So I learned that the hard way. You know, I did some Googling in the past and I figured it out. And there you go, you see, it's now curved, it's not pointed. So if you want the curve to be sharper, you just have to increase this value, say 30. And see, I made it too sharp that now the image, so I have to do the same to the image also. If I want it, the image can also behave like that. So let me demonstrate what I mean. And pick this, go to the images and put it there. Let's see if that works. So all the images will have that feature too. And boom. See? Now they all have the same behavior like that. Now let's do it at the back. So they did it very small. It doesn't matter. For us, this looks more beautiful. Okay. Now the other part is gonna be border. So border top. Guys, could you tell me which one to choose if I want to change this side, this border radius? Look at the options we have. 4. We have bottom left, bottom right, bottom left, bottom right, top left,
left.
top right. Top left.
left.
Thank you. And it has to be consistent, people. It has to be consistent. So I save this. I think I have few questions. Now you can see it's good now, but the image is sticking out. So what do? This is the inner div, so the inner div. I need to do the same for the image tag also. And then it will all be consistent. I'm gonna ask one major question. I need you guys to prepare to help me answer, and that will be the end of the lesson. Oh my goodness, can you guys see what we built? Like, you go to a website, if you design this one for your manager, he's gonna promote you. I'm telling you. It's very, very beautiful. Very, very, very beautiful. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what you do at the back of the code, or it doesn't matter what you do in the database. The design, if you cannot design the page like this, it doesn't really benefit the users at all. But the user is going to be here all the time. So the way you design the front end is very crucial. That is why in some companies, even the front end engineer makes more money than the back end engineer in some companies. And people think that front end is even more difficult than the back end. So this is a powerful skill, friends. Just practice them. That's all I will tell you. So now my question is this, and I'm counting on you guys to help me answer this. Now, let's pay attention to the image design that we just did. Look at the width of the image. We made sure that it is exactly equal to the width of the div, the width of the div that contains it, right? That is why it is exactly the same like that. Let me make it slightly lower and see. That will lead to my question, okay? Let's just make it slightly lower. Where's the image? Make it say 150. Oh, sorry, that is the height I'm touching. Make it say 240, for instance. Save, and let's see what happens. You can always experiment, changing things, and then you see stuff, right? So this is what happens if we, this is still not that bad a design to have. It's still not that bad. They chose to have it like that. But, your manager can say do it this way. If I want to put a little space at the top, right, you have to, you know what to do. That is just the margin, right? Set the margin top and all of that. So my question is, now we know the width of this div. We know the width of this div. That is why we easily copied it and pasted it here. Right? We knew it, so we just copied it and pasted it here. So pasted it here. And then we got the behavior that we wanted. So based on what we studied yesterday, is there any other way to do this without specifying the width yourself, like without giving us the width in pixels, right? Like if you have to do it in percentage, what do you think? Okay, well, let me make it easier. I'm still gonna make the question easier now. So the image, assuming that we didn't know the width of the div, even if you know it, it can change tomorrow. Like if somebody tomorrow, they changes the width of the div to say 350, so they change it to 350. Now, suddenly the code is looking like this, right? This is a problem because the way we built it, if they change the weight of the inner div, they also have to change the weight of the image. That is too much work. They're doing double work, right? They're doing double work. And they may not even know that they have to do that. And then all these issues are happening. So how do we avoid this? Sorry. How do we avoid it? We avoid it by using the percentages. But my question is still going to stand, so don't worry. Let me say, if I say the weight should be 50%, do you guys remember what that means? It means that look at what is my parent? What is the weight of my parent? Give me 50% of that. Do you remember we said that yesterday? So that if they change this, you don't have to change this. This will automatically change by itself, right? So now this is what we get. What is the weight of my parent? Give me 50%. So this is 50% of the weight of your parent. So that is why we use the percentages, right? So now my question is, if I want to keep using the percentages and I want this image, the width of this image to fill up the whole space here, what number should I use?
Can I see the code?
Yeah, Ibrahim is traveling, so probably that's why he left. And then I know Kofi is in church also. So but Justina and Afunawe, thank you for staying. We are just about finishing, as you can see. It's just so tell me, guys, what do you think? Did you guys understand the question? If you
Can
didn't,
you read the question, please?
okay, so do you understand why the width of the image is now like this and not everything? It's not taking the whole space. Do you understand why that is?
Well, you said you made it 50% of the parent
The parent's width.
with, yeah.
Yes. So instead of hard coding, I don't know, I could have said, oh, what is 50% of 300 pixel? That is what, 150, right? I could have put 150 here and it will still be the same, right? If I put 150 px, we're going to have the same behavior. Nothing is going to change. So what is the problem with that approach? Do you remember? What did I say the problem with this approach is? If
Making it 150 instead of 50%.
yes. What do you think the weaknesses of that approach is?
That it could change. Somebody else can change it.
Yeah, somebody else can change it. Thank you. Somebody else can change the width of the inner div to say 400. And then things will be messed up when they do that, right? Because now this is only 150 and this is for 400. So the design is going to look ugly. So you don't want that. So that is the problem with using the pixels. And so in that case, I said we are better off using the percentages. It's 50% and the 150. It's exactly the same. But what happens is if somebody changes this in the future, this will adjust, the size of this will adjust automatically. Right. So as this is getting bigger, this is also getting bigger. Right. Because it's now percentage of that. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
So now
Yeah.
yeah. So now my question is this one. Currently, let's go back to the 300 and save it. So we can have what we used to have. Let me make this slightly bigger so that we see them. My question right now is, I know Afi is looking at the code, so let me bring it up here. So right now, if I want this image to fill up the whole space like it used to be without using the pixels, I still want to keep using the percentages. What value should I use to achieve that?
100.
100.
Oh no.
Afi, Afnora, what do you think about that? 1 second.
You said something about we have to look at the parent.
The width for the parent.
The width of the parent. So will we do the percentage of that?
And you take 50% of that and you have this, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you want the whole thing, what are you going to take? What percentage are you going to take?
Let's say that you go a little bit lower. How would it look?
Okay, yeah, let's try that. Let's make it 30%. If we take 30%, as you know, it will become smaller.
So it'll be higher. Okay, so
60.
okay, yeah.
It goes a little bigger. Now, say 89. It's getting bigger.
You put 890.
Hey. Yay. Okay, that's the percent. Okay. So what is that doing? It's gonna add, it's gonna multiply the width. So by itself many times. It's gonna be way bigger. Okay, well, let's save. Sorry, guys. So 89 is this. So if I want to fill the whole space, what should it be?
100.
100. So Tina, that was a good answer. 100. So actually, if you want to say 200%, it doesn't make sense in mathematics. There's 200% really doesn't make sense in math. But now that we are looking at cryptocurrencies and stock market, sometimes you can invest your money and you get 1,000% of your money. So it means that 200% is possible. Who can interpret what 200% is? 200% of the parents' wealth. What does that mean? Of course, we know it's gonna double up a little bit, right? It's gonna double it. It means take the parents' wealth, multiply that by 2.
Twice.
Which makes sense, right? So that too can be done. So just so we know. So 100%. This is a much better code. This is a much better code. And we have this. At this point, if I look here, I don't think I see anything that we are missing, really. And based on what we know, I think this is a perfect design. And we can call it a day. If do you guys have any questions?
Oh, no.
Okay, so the challenge for you as you go home is try to just redo it, right? You can watch the video over and over again so that you understand exactly what we've done. And you can try to just take a picture of the page and then see if you can do it yourself. Right. If you need images, you can copy images from the internet, free images from the internet, and put them in a folder so that you can keep using them. But the practice is gonna help you guys a lot, okay? And because we are going away for a whole week, I want to give a homework that you are going to, I want you to try to build for me so that when we meet next weekend, we can go to it. So let me show you what that is. It's also very nice work. It's gonna help you practice. Oh, oh my God in heaven. I shouldn't be showing the code, but I'm showing it, it's all right. So that you can see the HTML. So it's okay, you can try to have this same HTML. So the code that I'm not gonna show you is the design. Because I have the design in a separate file. So view in browser. I want you to do something like this for me. Just build it. Okay, so let me extend it a little bit so that it looks better. So does this look like something that you guys would do? You can do? I believe you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. You know, give it a try and let's see. But you're just gonna be using the same principles that we've been using. You know, just a list, inline block, inline stuff. Just use those principles. And because this image is a background image, so you know how to set that. Very easy. And you know, use some margins and stuff. I think the only tough thing is this arrow here. How I got it, you can just Google image for top arrow, image, how to get, you can say image for forward arrow in HTML. You just get the image and copy it or something like that. You know, they have every symbol that you see. There is, you know, there is a code for it. There's a code that represents that symbol. Like if I wanted this symbol, I could just put this in the HTML code. That's the content, right? You can see here, the symbol is the content of that element. And what is that element? It's a button. But look, that symbol, this is how the computer sees it. We see the symbol as this, the computer sees it as this. So they call it the Unicode character of the symbol. If you guys, you've heard this thing before, that anything in computers is numbers, right? Whatever we see, we convert it into numbers. That's how the computer sees it. So Yeah, we see this, computer sees this. So if you want to have this as a content, you see between your button, you just have to put this code over there. And the computer will understand it, that is the content. And I showed the link, the place where I got that. You can just click on this and then you get it from there. Yeah. So that is the only tough thing. And once you put it here, it's the same as a text, right? Instead of saying visit page, you are saying, just saying something else. And even if you click on it, it doesn't go anywhere. So this is the plain HTML, and I want you guys to, well, as it's a homework, let me show you how this will look for you. I'm taking away the design. Let's see, if you take out the design, it's gonna look like this. So without CSS, this is how the page is gonna look. And then as soon as you bring the CSS, look at what it looks like. And see that CSS is very, very powerful. It makes all the difference, man. It makes all the difference. Okay, so your goal is to take something like this and make it into something like this. So give it a shot and let me see what you can do, okay? Is that okay?
Yes.
Any
Yes.
questions? Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Let me see, is there any other thing I want to mention now? So when we meet again, I will introduce some of the other concepts, and then I will introduce the concept and then we build another project, right? And we're just gonna keep building projects now from now onwards. And then hopefully you all can become very comfortable. And then we can move to the JavaScript, which is the coding. As soon as we add JavaScript, you guys can build amazing things, games. You can create many games and, but of course our goal is to create a software. So we have that in mind also. Okay. All right. Thank you, Alfie and Tina, for coming. If you have any questions during the week, you know what to do. You can let me know. One question for Tina. Were you able to install the Visual Studio Code?
No, I'm gonna do it today. Sorry about that. I went to a funeral last night. No, I was at home. But I'll definitely do it today.
That sounds good. In case you have any difficulties, please just ping me and then I can help, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, but the video that I shared is pretty good, so I think you would be great. But
Okay, thank you.
yeah, just get to the point where you can execute the code, the view in browser, if it works and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all. And any other questions for me?
No.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I'll share the link to the video in case you need to watch it again. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye and happy Sunday.
Thank you.
Happy Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.